Hi everyone, Paul at ISM. Different camera angle today. Today we're going to look around all my spray area. We're going to look at the booth, the compressor, airbrushes, tools, all the thinners, cleaners, paints we use over here. Just so people can see what I use, because I've never been through this properly before. Before we go today though, have a look at this video. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the little bell notifications, get notified of all our latest videos. Click the like button and leave a comment. I do read and reply to all the comments and appreciate everybody that takes the time to leave a comment on the channel. And of course, if you scroll up in the description, there's a link to a big long list of all the items I use in my videos. So if you see anything, you should be able to find it in there. So yeah, you see this spray booth all the time. You get the top-down view. You've seen it this way in pictures of the cave, but I've never actually gone through everything's around here because there's quite a lot of stuff over here that I do use on a day-to-day basis. So I thought we'll come in, we'll have a bit of a chat and a talk and go through everything. I'm going to do a similar video for my actual workbench as well. And we'll have a look at all my day-to-day tools that I use, but hopefully it'll prove interesting and maybe be useful for somebody out there who's designing or making or setting up their own booth. So without any more waffle, let's jump in and let's go and have a look at what we've got. Right then, let's start off with the actual paint booth itself. So this is my paint booth. This is approximately 3 foot wide, a foot deep and about 18 inches tall. So what's that, about 90 centimeters wide, 30 centimeters deep and about 45 centimeters tall roughly. Its main unit right in the center behind the blue filter is a bench vent A300S. That is vented up out the top and through the wall to outside. They're a great booth, really cuts down on any smells and dust. Can't really smell a thing once you've been spraying in here. And I'd always recommend to get as good a spray booth as you can afford. Filters are my own. I supply my own. If you ever after any filters for a spray booth, just message me and I will sort you out. Over on the left, we have various thinners and cleaners. Bear with me, my tripod isn't the best. It's a bit squeaky and rough. So we'll go through all those in a minute. Over on the right, we've got my airbrushes, my airbrush cleaning pots, brushes, stirrers, primers, the metallic paints I use a lot, some other paints I use quite a lot of as well, and obviously our Apex airbrushes are there, which we'll run through in a minute. And if we go down underneath, we have some storage drawers, my Sparmax 610 compressor, some kitchen roll, some spare filters. I've got a spare respirator filter, and my airbrush cleaning kit is in the pot in the bag just there as well. So like I say, Sparmax 610 compressor, they're absolutely fantastic. Highly recommend those. And then we've got a custom made airbrush hose there as well. Over the top of the booth, we have our Lightcraft / Chesto LED daylight lamp. Absolutely fantastic. Fully adjustable for brightness, full adjustable arm, and it fits in there absolutely perfect. And as you can see, it gives a fantastic light pattern. No real shadowing off it whatsoever. Absolutely perfect light. No problems at all off that. You can pick those up a lot of places. And again, as usual, most of the stuff I'm going to show you now, you can find in the link to this video. In the link of products I use in my videos, there's a big long list of products. You can click on that, go over there, and you'll find most of them in there. Up above, over the top of the spray booth, we've got a couple of important, well, a few important safety items. Fire extinguisher, always recommend to have a new or current one of those in your workspace, especially using flammable materials. We've got an eye wash station over on the right as well. Again, you are using hazardous materials. If anything gets in your eye, you need to deal with that as quick as possible. We've got my 2 respirators, which we'll go into detail on in a little bit. We've got my spoons, which are there, which are freshly painted. Well, not freshly painted, but they're painted for reference. We've got some airbrush stands, part stands, sorry, empty spray bottles, my Boba Fett clock. We've got a 3D printed storage unit, which is full of pipettes, brushes, cocktail sticks, cotton buds, sanders, a knife, a pen, a toothbrush, just things that we can, need a hand sometimes. And that up there is my 2K airbrush as well, which we'll run through in a minute. Down the side, I've got a couple of useful tools. We've got the Mist Hobby bottle opener. It's just here, it's just blacked out a little bit because of the light. and the cap to go with it. Very useful tools, really, really useful. We'll start over on the left-hand side of the booth where we have all our thinners and cleaners. So first off, we've got the fantastic Tamiya lacquer thinner with retarder. Absolutely fantastic. This has got the patented Al McNeish pipette retention system on it, which is an elastic band holding our pipette on. Very, very handy. We've got our standard Tamiya lacquer thinner. What you use these for is yourself, but generally, if you're after something to be a bit glossier, use the one with the retarder. If you're not, use a standard one. And if you have something dry quick, use the one at the back, which we'll get to in a second. We've got generic lacquer thinner, cheap stuff off eBay. UMP airbrush cleaner, UMP thinner, my go-tos for anything non-lacquer. Can't fault them whatsoever. We've got Mr. Colour, Mr. Hobby leveling thinner with one of the quick easy pour spouts on. And then, like I was saying, if you need something to dry quick, be it metallic or whatever you're using, use the Mr. Colour rapid thinner. The idea behind this, especially with metallics, because it dries quicker, the metallic flakes don't sink to the bottom. That is the theory. Whether it works, I don't know. So dry quicker and give you a much better finish. So these quick fill adapters, they go on top of the Mr. Hobby. They screw on. They're made by Mr. Hobby. They screw on like that. It doesn't pour. Once it's straight, it does pour. So they're very useful, very handy. These bottles are a bit cumbersome and a bit awkward. I don't mind the Tamiya ones with a pipette. These have always been a bit of a problem and always needed decanting into another bottle. So that's all our thinners and cleaners. Okay, onto our other side. We've got our airbrush cleaning station. So any excess fluid gets sprayed into that. Anything we're not spraying away, we want to tip away. We're a little plastic tub. I've had that for about 10 years. It came with my very first airbrush cleaning station. And it's just one of those tools that's lasted forever. We've got one of the Tamiya carousel paint storage stands. UMP primer at the top. We've got some thinned LP5, which is one of my staple go-to paints. We've got some GX2, Mr. Colour Gloss Black. And we've also got some Guns GX1, hang on. Should be the same, maybe not. And some Mr. Colour Red. Now, I am using LPs at the minute. These are colours I decanted ages ago. And basically, they only get used for brake calipers, and that's it really. So, fire extinguishers. So the paint's lasting forever. In the bottom, we've got some AK Extreme metals. So we've got metallic smoke, gunmetal, gold. We've got Jura aluminium, dark aluminium, steel, matte aluminium as well. And again, they're my go-to colours I use a lot on all my cars. So they're kept there at hand. There's a big paint rack of them behind up the top as well for anything we do use for any other colours. At the back we've got a couple of tweezers which you use for mid-paint, removing dust or hair that we can get. In here we've got some paint stirrers, my cleaning paintbrush. We'll have a close look at these in a minute. Paint stirrers, cleaning brush. We've got my Badger paint mixer, which is an invaluable tool, and my Apex airbrushes as well. I have 5 of them in total. And again, we'll run through the use of all of those in a minute. Okay, as said, Sparmax 610, easy to use, easy to change the pressure. Control knob's right there, the gauge is right next to it. It's covered in paint. This is a massively used work area, so there is paint spills, there's paint on the floor, there's paint on the units, paint on the spray booth. It's a spray booth. It's used for painting. It's going to get dirty. It's one of those things. Over here we've got some kitchen rolls. I absolutely love Asda, which is the UK version of Walmart. Shades Power, whatever they're called. Absolutely fantastic kitchen paper. You can get it absolutely soaking wet and it does not fall to bits. But the Regina Blitz is good as well. It's a bit more powdery. Somebody asked me this question in a comment the other day actually. I only use it as a backup. What I use is Asda Shades, which I've only got one of, and it's on my roll, which is just there. This is the Paul Bretland painted kitchen paper retention system. It's an elastic band, but this is the paper in I'm talking about. It is ultra. It's just fantastic. It doesn't powder. Once it's wet, it stays together. It's just really high quality stuff. And this here on a bit of an elastic band is very handy. And if I pull too much off, I just tuck it in the back there. So underneath, we've got my storage drawers. Now bear with me, it's a bit of an awkward thing to film this, so I'll do the best I can. So I'm going to whip off my hose and just pop it down there so it's out of the way. So in the top, we have, we got our filters, 190 micron paint filters. We're filtering our paint. We've got some tack cloths. We've got spoons, testing paint. We've got masking tape because I taped down my kitchen paper on top. We've got some soft jaw pliers, a boa constrictor, spanner, sellotape, and a labelling machine as well. Labelling machines for labelling paint pots. Sellotapes to go over the top to stop the label coming off. Tack cloths are to remove dust and debris from paint, and obviously the filters are to filter out any nasties from any paint you may have. And spoons, one of the most important airbrushing tools you can have, in my opinion. Ultra handy to have for testing paints. And of course there's some straws in here as well for decanting Tamiya and Mr. Hobby spray cans. Next one down is full of pipettes, hundreds of the things, and hundreds of medicine cups as well. They are medical grade medicine cups. You need those for lacquer paint, so as a lacquer will eat them. And the very bottom one is full of UMP primer. I can't really get to it, but there you go. That is literally full of UMP primer, so that's where I store it all. Okay, drawer unit over on the left. Now as you see, I have LEDs under here. They run around the whole cave, around the bottom and the top, and it lights up the floor. So if you drop things, it's great. The other benefit is, because it runs under the drawers, it lights the drawers up as well, which is ultra handy. And these are just 15, £20 LED strips off Amazon. They're about 5 to 10 meters long, depending on what you get. Daylight white, and they are fantastic, especially for lighting up drawers like this. So if I turn this, we can have a look what's in here. Excuse the lighting, there's not much you can do because it's at the spray booth. We just got ambient lights in the other room. First off, nitrile gloves. Prefer nitrile over everything. They're a bit more resistant to chemicals. So packs of 100, they live in there, and I always cover my left hand when normal spraying because that's the hand I'm using to hold the parts. And when I'm 2K, and I double up on the left hand and single glove the right. Those medicine cups are there. We've got some cheap ones off Amazon. They're fine with lacquer thinners. And then we've got some more expensive ones, which are harder, more rigid, which I use for my 2K. And then the same material, they're 30mm, 25, 30mm, and these are 60mm, the bigger ones. You see at the back there. Over here we have various decanted Tamiya TS paints that I've used for various models over the years and months, and I leave the decanted paints in there to use should I need to. We've got a Gravity 2K clear, some spare LP5s, and then in these bottles here, if I can get to them, which I need to pull the drawer out a bit, the white capitals here are all decanted metallic TS sprays. Behind it we've got some zero paints, some mixing balls for the paint pots, and some airbrush lubrication as well. So again, all go-to paints and tools and what have you, all handily kept in there. Next one down, this is a little bit of a dumping ground, and the reason it is, all the stuff I just showed you in the spray booth, when I'm 2K and it all comes out and it's wiped down and kept clear, so there's less chance of dust, so it all lives in there. So in here is some 2K thinner, which we use for cleaning the airbrush. Got some paint stripper when we're doing the Matchbox cars. We've got a bender, which Dan printed for me. I don't know if you can see him properly. So I can get it out. There you go. There he is. A storage tub and a spare UMP print primer. So that is just kept empty. It used to be the drawer I kept my models in when they were 2K'd, but they now go in the plastic drawers. So I just empty everything on this bench, goes in there when we're 2K, keeps it out of the way. And last but not least, at the bottom, excuse me knocking the camera, this one is tricky to get into. Rex behind calendar every time. We have got spray can primers and clears that I've collected for God knows how many years now. Use them quite regularly alongside the UMP primer. The clears are used for testing paint primarily, so they look like under a clear. We've got spare Tamiya thinner, spare Santa Darwin's and Newton thinner over there as well. Various cleaners, 2K clear coat, thinner at the back as well, and just generic stuff in there. There's a set of drawers over to the right as well, but they're a part of my actually day-to-day building workbench, so we'll go through those when we go through all the tools I use on a daily basis. So we're on the bench. Makes life a little bit easier for me. I'm going to zoom in a touch so you can see. First off, my cleaning kit. This was an iWater cleaning kit. It's now a Apex Restoration Fixer kit. We've got some spare needles, old tips that are broke, a spare rear part of the Apex. Cleaning brushes, Allen key for undoing the handle The finger rest on the apex, I think it's 5/64 of an inch, or 64/5, whatever it is, it's in inches. So they're all there. We've got some eye water tools, which we don't use anymore. We've got spare needle nozzle sets, eye water tools again, tweezers. We've got the eye water magnifier, which is very handy with a little light on it. So you have a little inspection of your needles and tips. And in here, we've got a whole load of paper cleaning points and spare parts for the apex as well. So that is my go-to kit, along with that soft-jawed spanner plier grip I showed you earlier. Cleaning station is one of the Mr. Hobby ones, so it's just a receptacle for spraying into once it's full. If you responsibly dispose of the contents, don't just throw it down your grid. This little tub next to us, which has my brush in, it's got a big old artillery brush in there, an old synthetic one. That's my go-to cleaning one. This one, as you can tell by the splayed end, is used for cleaning the nozzles. And then we've got a load of the Tamiya paint stirrers and a Mr. Hobby measuring spoon as well, which doesn't get used all that often, to be fair. But most of the time, I use my Badger paint mixer. These things are great. They're cheap, really easy to use, and an invaluable part. Yes, you can shake the paint. You could have a jigsaw or a lathe, or an industrial sander to shake your paint, which is crazy in my opinion. You can get this in most paints, well, paint's worth using anyway, and it'll mix them up absolutely fantastic, quick, easy and simple. The pot we're talking about is just I've had that 10 years, and it's just full of tissue. We pour away any water-based paints in there. All the lacquers get sprayed into that receptacle I showed you before, and yeah, that's just periodically emptied. Now, airbrushes, like I say, I have 5, so I'll show you them all and explain all their uses, because people do ask me all the time what they are for. So we have varying ages of airbrush. This one's fairly new. I can't remember what it is, and then I'm going to guess, looking by it, this one is the oldest, and I'll explain all their uses. So I have airbrushes for different paints, so I will explain everything as we go. So as you see, they are labelled primer with our label making a bit of sellotape. So this is 0.35, this is a standard apex, and this is my primer apex. So this only gets used for ultimate primer. That's all I put through this. Full stop. And why is that? It stops any contamination of the airbrush from lacquer paints or anything like that. As you see, spotlessly clean. All my airbrushes are kept clean. And it's literally just used for Ultimate Modelling Products primer. Some paints don't like each other. A lot of water-based paints don't like lacquer, and vice versa. So it can cut down on the problems you have airbrushing. So like I say, UMP, Apex, you can't beat these airbrushes. I've owned everything, and for simplicity and ease of use, these are fantastic. I've owned everything from Harder Steenbeck, Iwater Custom Microns, you name it, I've had it over the years. And when myself and Lee started selling these, I was dubious about it, thinking, oh, it's not going to be very good. Just because I think I was a bit of an airbrush snob back then, if I'm honest. I had Harder Steenbecks, I had Iwaters. As soon as I got my hands on one of these, I fell in love with it. It's so easy to use, easy to spray, easy to clean, easy to maintain. And once you've got one, that's it. You've got one. You'll know how good and easy they are to use. So that is number one. That is my primer airbrush. Another single-use airbrush is my oldest one, as you can see by all the tarnishing on the body, because that's where your fingers sit when you're holding it. This one's probably about 4 years old. This is just used for my 2K work. Nothing else goes through this. And a lot of people ask why. If you're using lacquer paint or water-based paint, or especially metallic paints, those colour pigments can stay in the airbrush. Even if you think it's clean, unless you fully strip it down, it will hold remnants in there. And the last thing you want in your clear coat on your beautiful black car is metallic flicks of paint landing on it, or bits of red, or what have you. So that is why I have a dedicated airbrush just for my 2K, and that's all that one is used for. It's a standard airbrush again, 0.35 needle nozzle set, and that is my 2K clear coat airbrush. Metallics. Now, this is one, surprise, surprise, I use for my metallics. So this is a bit different to others. This is a 0.2mm needle setup. This is the fine needle setup for the Apex. Other than that, it's totally standard, and the reason I chose the 0.2 is you don't always want to be hosing on the metallics. Applying them a bit lighter is the key sometimes. With the likes of AK Extremes, you can go a bit heavy with them, but a little bit of a more precise pattern is sometimes a bit better with the metallics, hence why I chose that. So literally all that goes through this is AK Extremes, Mr. Hobby Super Metallics, LP, Tamiya, and Alclads occasionally. I don't tend to use Alclads a lot, but that is what goes through this. Next up, we'll do this one. No, we won't. We'll do this one first. So this is my day-to-day airbrush that I use for lacquers. So 0.35, standard apex again, and this gets used for everything from Tamiya TS, Tamiya LP, Mr. Colour, Zero, Gravity. They all go through this. 0.35 needle, spray perfect, and that is what that one's for. So that's day-to-day lacquer. Larger areas mainly, because I have this one. Now this is labelled acrylic still, because I never changed the label on it when I moved over to lacquers. But this is a 0.2mm apex, and this is used for lacquers where I need fine work. So say I'm doing camo work or what have you, and it's got a little bit of blue paint in there, must have dripped in. This is used for any detail work. A 0.2mm needle can give you a real nice fine tip, and a very nice fine spray pattern, and that's what that's used for, literally. So like I say, 5 airbrushes, they're all there for a reason. I could add another one for UMP washers, but I just tend to use the primer one for that, because they're water based and it's quite easy to clean out. For spraying UMP washers through the 0.35 needle, they go through wonderful. So airbrushes, they're on a UMP quad stand, which has definitely had its use. As you can see, it's covered in paint. And like I say, they're connected to the Sparmax compressor by a custom quick release airbrush hose, which is this. You can get these from air-craft.net, made to size, very high quality, really, really nice. And that is the airbrushes. Okay, so the paint. So my workshop is surrounded by paints. They're all up on racks. They look pretty and they're easy to get to. So if we start with the AK Extremes, these are my go-to metal paints. Enamel, they spray beautiful, they dry fantastic, really good range of colours. Bit of a dusty shelf, it's right behind the spray booth unfortunately, so it does still pick up remnants of dust. Over on the right we've got the Mr. Hobby Super Metallics, which again are lacquer based, fantastic colours and range of metallics there as well. Both high quality, and for sure some of my go-to paints there. The AK enamels, AK Extremes are probably one of my most used metallic paints. Over to the right of them we have our Alclad metallics, which were several years ago good paints. I think they're far superseded by modern day lacquers now, and these very, very rarely get used anymore. I found them subpar compared to modern day paints, and they go off in their bottles really fast in my opinion. So it's a bit of a shame, because I used them for many, many years, but I just don't think they live up to modern day paints like the AK Extremes or LPs or even the TS sprays from Tamiya. Next up we've got the area of my main workbench, and this is a whole plethora of paints from Mr. Colour, Tamiya LP, we've got some AK lacquer paints there as well. A whole mixture of paints, and yeah, out of all those, the Tamiya LPs are probably my favourite. Very reliable, durable, easy to spray, and great colours, just typical Tamiya quality. Then we got my Gravity Spain colours, absolutely fantastic range of paints. My 2K clear coat up above as well. Super paints, great colour range, and I'm just building up my collection now, which is why there aren't that many just yet, but I've got plenty of colours for future projects there. So go to Gravity Spain's website and have a look there. Down below we've got some of the GX colours as well, some more of the super metallics, and a few spare paints and bits and bobs there, and spare glues as well. In the corner we've got my Zero paint collection. Now again, not a paint I use all the time. I find them a little bit too hot, and the colour matches can be a little bit lacking sometimes. I try not to use them if I can, but I've got a lot of money invested in these, as you can see. So they get used as and when needed, which is a bit of a shame, but it's just one of those things. Still a good paint, you just really got to take your time spraying them. are one of my favourite paints of all time, Tamiya TS lacquer spray cans. Whether you're spraying them out the spray can or like I do, you decant them and put them through the airbrush, they are super reliable, really easy to use, just like the LP Ranger paint, safe, cause no issues with your models or paintwork. Absolutely great range of colours as well, and just a good all-round paint range. So last but certainly not least, respirators. This is my 3M M7502. It has got the brown filters on it, which I believe are for non-organic vapours. This is my go-to. It's got pre-filters on it, so it'll pre-filter out any muck. It'll make your filters last a little bit longer. Very high quality. It's about £50 all in for this, but you know, what price can you put on your safety? Great, nice and comfortable, quick to put on and off, nice and simple. As you can see, I date my filters. I've got no idea what date that is. Looks like a 4 to 20. If it is, they're well out of date and need replacing. But no problems at all. You can tell by the state of your pre-filters what the condition they're in, and they're spotless. No problem at all. So this is used for everything. You shouldn't breathe in any paints whatsoever, be they water-based, alcohol, lacquer, whatever. Even with a good spray booth, you should be wearing a filter. And I will be honest, sometimes I don't. When I'm spraying UP primer, I don't always spray, but anything else, I've always got this on. The lacquer fumes, especially cheap lacquer thinner, it gives me banging headaches, migraines sometimes. So it's well worth having this. Even with a fantastic booth, I think this is money well spent. And as a minimum, this is the minimum type of respirator you can have. You can get cheaper ones. I wouldn't have anything but this 3M one. It's very high quality. The filters are about £10–15 to replace every 6 months or so. They're not too expensive. And like I say, it's nice and comfortable, nice flexible face mask. And you don't even notice you're wearing it half the time. Really good. Now, a bit more of a specialist one is my Scott respirator. Now, there's links to this in the description of the video. So this is a full face respirator, as you can see, full over the head, like an SAS jobby. Now, this is one of the highest rated respirators I could find for using 2K. It comes with this filter. It's kept in a sealed freezer bag. The other one should be really, but it's not. And this will filter out almost anything and everything, even down to like mercury and radioactive material, supposedly. It's what the info says on this. The filter is about £15 to buy, so they're not that bad. The mask is about £120, so it's not the cheapest. But with that thing gone, your face is covered, your eyes are covered. It works fantastic. I cannot smell a thing through this at all. This filter just screws onto the side, so it is. You can go storming rooms around your house with it if you wanted. Pretend to be the SAS, but it's big. It looks overkill, but with 2K, you're essentially spraying airborne superglue. So it's not something to take lightly. With a good booth, I've got a window next to this which is left open, so any air drawn in takes it straight back out. And with this on, I'm pretty happy, safe in the knowledge I'm doing the best I can for my lungs. Now, the best setup for 2K really is not to use it. The next best is an air-fed mask, which is, it's a forced positive pressure, I think it is. So it has a pump that blows air in and pushes everything out, basically. I think it is, that's how it works. So nothing ever gets in. You can breathe normally through the fresh air supplied by the pump. That is the best way to go, but you're paying a lot of money for one of those. They're not cheap at all. This was the next step down, and this for amateur hobbyists who probably spray 2K once every week or 2 weeks, this should be just fine. And again, it's money well spent to know that you're doing the best you can for your lungs. Okay, couple of last things before we go. Number one is all my lovely paint spoons, which have just decided to do a trick on me, but there you go. So these are all the colours I've tested over the years, just generic plastic spoons are primed and painted in the colour, and I write on the back what they are. This is Mr. Colour Wine Red, this one hasn't got a name on it, this one's TS44, so at a reference I can always pick up a spoon and go, oh yeah, that's a nice colour, I'll use that. So that's why I do this. It's quick and simple to spray, and if you use some of the spray can clear in a can I showed you before, you can spray over it and see what it looks like clear coat as well, because colours will change under clear coat. And these are all my metallics. So in there is a mixture of TS, LP and Mr. Hobby Super Metallics and Alcalad Extreme Metals. And again, I can just pick a colour and go, oh yeah, that's a nice metal, or that's a nice colour, and it's just a quick reference to look. Bottle tops don't always give you the reference to the paint, so it's much easier to look at a real colour like this, and it's a very handy reference to keep on your bench. Next up, this is literally probably last but least, let me just see, we've got some paint stands. So these are the U-Star ones. I have had these for years, probably about 4 or 5 years now. They cost about £8. So it's just a high density. It's different to the florist stuff where somebody says that. This is ultra high density. It doesn't fall to bits. It's really strong. And as you can see by the amount of holes in them, they have painted hundreds and hundreds of items over the years. There's 4 of them. There's another one somewhere. Oh, the other one's up there. It's covered in pigments when I was doing armour, so I keep that for armour. So we've got 3 of those that are used regularly, and this one was very kindly made for us by an ISM member many moons ago, and again, it's still used to this day. But the beauty of these is you can put apart of them and hold it upside down. They don't fall out because it grips things so well. Money well spent. Mr. Hobby do a similar one to this, which are great as well. We've got those at UMP. So if you're looking for some, go to UMP, you'll find them there. But I like these ones most of all, me being me. A couple of last things as well. We've got empty Tamiya jars. These were used for decanted paint, mixed paints. You can use plastic bottles if you want, but you'll find with lacquer paints, the lacquer will leach over time and you'll end up with ruined paint. So I go for these. They're not expensive to buy. We've got them at UMP as well. We do the larger size ones, which are in here somewhere. Where on earth have they gone? There we go. There's the larger ones, which I keep my decanted Tamiya primers in. And they're brilliant. High quality. You've used Tamiya paint, you know how good their paint pots are. So that is that. Up top, we got a water spray bottle, which I use for moistening the tissue paper, kitchen roll for when we're doing 2K. Any dust that then lands, it doesn't get blown back up. And last but not least, up on top is my little storage unit and masking unit. So how often do you go to the spray booth and think, oh crap, I didn't do that? So in here I've got sanders, sponge, buffer, we've got a knife, we've got a Sharpie, we've got a toothbrush, spoons, pre-painted, that's pre-primed and they're ready to go. There was a load in there, but I've used them all. Micro brushes, an invaluable tool for cleaning your airbrush or getting bits off the body. Pointed Tamiya cotton buds, again, ideal for cleaning your airbrush or getting bits off. Cocktail sticks, in case you've mounted something and they snap. And masking tape, again, if something needs masking up, you've missed a little bit, or you need to mount something to a stick, it's all there, easy to get to and easy to use. And that's it really. That is a basic overview of my spray booth. So there we have it then, the magic behind the mystery, if only. So yeah, that is it. That is my work area when I'm spraying. Like I said all along, it's a working area. It's a dirty area. It's covered in dust, spilled paint, all sorts of malarkey in there. But that's by the nature of a paint booth. It's well used. It's used every single day, multiple times, for a multitude of paints, finishes, reasons, even paint stripping's done in there, everything, because the extractor's that good. It just pulls all the smell out of the room. With the window shut and the door shut, when that thing's on, my room's that well insulated, I struggle to open the door. That's how well that thing draws air. So they are very, very good. They're not cheap booths at all. They're about £300. Money well spent all day long. They are fantastic. It's vented outdoors. I can't smell a thing when I've painted in here. And like I say, if you need any filters, don't be paying £18 for one filter from them. Come and see me. I'll beat that price by, well, a lot. So come over and see me. Just drop me a message or leave a comment and I'll sort you out. But that's it. There you go. Overview of my spraying work area. Next video I do on working areas will be my actual bench that I work on day to day. It needs a bit of a tidy up and a sort out first. Things need restocking and replacing properly. And there's a lot of gear over there as well to go through. So that'll probably take us a bit of a while to go through too. But thanks for watching today. As always, check out International Scale Modeler Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com, where today we've got a Black Friday sale on, 25% off all UMP products. Check out the Live the Bench page and Off Air Hangout group for the live show and Off Air Hangout news. And of course, my Paul ISM Facebook page and Instagram page as well. Thanks for watching today. I will catch you all later. Take care.